You know that feeling, that really common but deeply personal feeling of always being on the outside looking in? Well, today we're going to dive into the psychological blueprint behind it, what this source calls the architecture of perpetual estrangement.
Just think about it for a second. You could be at a party, a work meeting, maybe even a big family dinner. You're there, right? But it feels like there's this invisible wall you just can't get past. It is such a powerful and honestly an isolating experience. If you've ever felt this, trust me, you are so far from alone. This isn't just, a bad mood that comes and goes. For a lot of people, it's a pattern that just keeps repeating. So let's really dig into what the source material says is the deeper cause. Okay, and this is absolutely key. It's so easy for us to just write this off as, oh, I'm just shy or I'm just awkward. But this is so much more profound than that. It's this deep down belief that you are fundamentally different, that you're just operating on a completely different wavelength from everyone else in the room. So let's get right to the heart of it. The story we almost always tell ourselves is that we're just bad with people. But the source material for this explainer suggests that we need to challenge that whole idea, that entire self-criticism.
Now, look at this. This slide is such a game changer. The shift in perspective here is everything. It's not about a deficiency. It's not I lack social skills. It's actually a defense mechanism. It's I predict rejection. See the difference? You're not failing at being social. Your brain is working overtime to protect you from a hurt it has learned to expect.
Okay, so where does a predictive system like that even come from? Well, the psychological framework for it is something called insecure attachment. And this is basically the engine room for that whole feeling of being an outsider. Think of insecure attachment like a super advanced emotional weather forecaster. Based on things that happened way back in your life, it learned to constantly scan the horizon for any sign of rejection, any hint of disconnection. It's always running these what-if scenarios of what could go wrong, all in an effort to keep you safe from getting hurt again. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? That feeling of not belonging in a room right now is often just a ghost from the past. Your brain is reacting to an old pattern it recognizes, not necessarily what's happening in reality. It's an echo of an old feeling, not a live event. So, how is this whole internal world actually built? According to the source material, this entire architecture of feeling estranged rests on 3 core psychological pillars. Let's look at them.
All right, here are the 3 big ones. These are the building blocks. A particular lens you see the world through, a mental habit of constantly comparing, and a core belief about your own value. Let's break down each one.
First up is what the source calls the hated child lens. Now, this is a really powerful metaphor for basically assuming that other people look at you with criticism and disapproval. You walk into a room and your mind is automatically translating a neutral face as negative, or someone's quietness as them judging you. You're projecting this expectation of being disliked onto everyone.
Next, we've got social comparison. But it's a very specific flavor of it. It's not just noticing that people are different. It's this relentless internal audit where somehow you always come up short. Everyone else just seems more confident, funnier, more connected. It's a game you can never win because your own mind has rigged the rules against you from the very start.
And finally, we get to the cornerstone of the whole thing, the belief that, deep down, you're just not that important. This is that quiet little voice in your head that says, if I left right now, would anyone even notice or care? It's this feeling of being on the sidelines, like an optional extra, that ultimately makes you want to pull away.
And here's the kicker. These 3 things don't just exist side by side, no. They feed each other. That hated child lens makes you compare yourself negatively, which then reinforces the belief that you're not important, which, you guessed it, makes that lens even stronger. It's a perfect closed loop, an architecture that holds itself up.
So, let's pull all these threads together. We started out with just a feeling, right? That sense of being an outsider. And now we're starting to get an understanding of the internal mechanics that are actually producing that feeling.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. That feeling isn't a true reflection of your worth or your ability to connect with people. It's a deeply ingrained protective system. And according to this framework, just understanding how that architecture was built, that's the most powerful first step you can possibly take.
And really, that's where the hope is. I mean, you can't exactly knock down a building if you don't know how it's put together, right? By seeing these pillars, the lens, the comparison, the belief, you can start to separate the architecture from your reality. You can begin to see it for what it is, a structure, not a fact.
And that brings us to our final thought here. An architecture is something that is built.
It's not something that's just innate or permanent. So the question I want to leave you with is this. If you can see the blueprint of your own estrangement, what kind of tools might you need to start renovating?